Spirituality, a word that evokes peace, awakening, freedom. But what if behind its shimmering surface lurks something darker? What if not all that glows is divine? In 2025, as ancient wisdom resurfaces and New Age teachings spread like wildfire, we are witnessing not just a spiritual revival, but a spiritual mutation, a fusion of conspiracy thinking and mystical language, a movement where truth seekers become gatekeepers, where intuition is weaponized, and where the quest for higher consciousness turns into a cult of fear, division, and ego worship. This is conspirituality, the belief system where spirituality and conspiracy collide, creating a vortex that feels enlightening but is fundamentally distorting. It whispers, "Open your third eye, but trust no one. Awaken from the matrix, but follow only my truth." It dresses in sacred symbols, uses ancient language, borrows from yogic, shamanic, and Gnostic traditions. But it's not about freedom. It's about control. The paradox, it's not always easy to see, because conspirituality wears the mask of liberation. It sounds like revolution, it feels like awakening, it looks like light, but underneath, it's often built on fear, us versus them mentalities, and the subtle seduction of superiority. You've seen it. Influencers claiming to be chosen while rejecting any opposing view as asleep. Spiritual communities that exclude, shame, or silence dissent under the guise of high vibration. Truth-tellers who spread disinformation laced with love and light language. This isn't spirituality, it's spiritual bypass, a detour around critical thinking, a replacement of grounded inner work with cosmic paranoia. But how did we get here? The roots go deep, back to the 1960s counterculture. Back to the mystics and the rebels, back to distrust in authority and a hunger for something real. And for many, conspirituality begins as a sincere search. They want meaning. They seek connection. They sense something wrong in the world and they want answers. But in that vulnerability, a new danger arises. When you awaken without discernment, you become easy to manipulate. The very sensitivity that makes you open to the divine, makes you open to deception. This is the shadow of the age of Aquarius, an explosion of information without filtration, a flood of truth mixed with illusion, a chorus of voices but no compass. And that's where the real work begins, not in rejecting spirituality, but in reclaiming it from distortion, to seek not just light, but clarity, not just awakening, but integrity. Because true spirituality doesn't need enemies, it doesn't divide, it doesn't shame, it liberates. To understand how conspirituality spreads, we must first look within, not at the teachings, but at the mind that receives them. Why do so many intelligent, intuitive, heart-centered people fall into its trap? It begins with a seed: distrust. Distrust in systems, in governments, in media, in modern medicine, in anything that smells like control. This by itself is not dangerous. In fact, healthy skepticism is sacred. It's what led prophets, mystics, and rebels throughout time to challenge false authorities. But when that distrust grows unchecked, without discernment, without grounding, it creates a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. So into that void rush new narratives, cosmic ones, hidden ones, ones that claim to know what's really going on. These narratives feel thrilling, empowering, even sacred. Suddenly, everything has a meaning. Every event is a ritual, every celebrity a symbol, every scientific discovery part of a hidden agenda. You're no longer a confused seeker, you're part of the enlightened few, and that's the hook. Conspirituality preys on the soul's longing for meaning and twists it into a mythology of fear. The language is seductive. You're not crazy, you're one of the few who sees. Everyone else is asleep. Only we are awake. They want to suppress the truth we carry. This creates a dual delusion, superiority and persecution. You're both the chosen one and the victim. This emotional cocktail is potent. It creates identity, it builds loyalty, and it bypasses critical thinking. Because if you're already on the right side, Why question? Why research? Why listen? And here lies the paradox. The movement that preaches question everything often punishes questions. Try asking for evidence in conspiritual circles. You'll be told you're too logical, too 3D, too indoctrinated. You're not resonating. The irony is sharp. A culture that accuses others of being brainwashed engages in its own mental programming. And this isn't just psychological, it's neurological. Studies show that constant exposure to fear-based content activates the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for threat detection. This creates a loop: fear identity, group validation, more fear. The brain begins to depend on that fear for meaning. It craves the next reveal, the next truth drop, and slowly the spiritual path becomes indistinguishable from addiction. Addiction to outrage, addiction to validation, addiction to being right. But here's the deepest danger. You think you're becoming more free while becoming more controlled. Controlled not by governments, but by ideologies, by influencers, by unverified narratives that feel like revelation but act like religion. And in this space, true spiritual growth halts. Because growth requires humility, it requires not knowing, and conspirituality hates uncertainty. It trades mystery for mythology, curiosity for conclusion, and wonder for war. What happens when ancient archetypes collide with modern technology? You get algorithmic spirituality, a feedback loop of fear, fascination, and false prophecy curated by machines. And it's here, in the digital shadows, that conspirituality thrives. Imagine this. You search for spiritual awakening one time, just once, and your timeline begins to change. Videos about chakras, posts about past lives, quotes about ascension. But soon the feed sharpens its edge. Now you're seeing clips that say the world is controlled by hidden elites, that certain bloodlines have encoded alien DNA, that global disasters are rituals designed to lower your vibration. And suddenly, spirituality doesn't feel expansive. It feels paranoid. You haven't joined a cult, but your feed has. Because algorithms don't understand nuance, they understand engagement. And fear is engaging, mystery is sticky, doubt is viral. So the more you watch, the more extreme your content becomes. Not because you seek it, but because the machine has learned what keeps you watching. And that machine doesn't care if it's true. It only cares if it spreads. In this world, spirituality becomes spectacle. Gurus become influencers. Revelation becomes performance. And algorithms become gods. This is the age of spiritual clickbait. And here's what's sinister. It works because the spiritual seeker is already vulnerable, already open, already asking big questions. And when no grounded answers arrive, the internet provides. It says, here, this is the truth, wrapped in symbols, backed by energy, sanctified by views. And slowly, the line between insight and ideology blurs. Now your spiritual journey is being curated by code, and if you think you're immune, pause. Even the awakened are being manipulated. Even those who preach discernment fall prey to dopamine. The platform doesn't care if you're right. It cares if you're reacting, and the more emotionally charged the content, the more it spreads. So what do? We reclaim conscious consumption. We practice digital discernment. Because in a world where anyone can speak to millions, the most powerful practice may be knowing when to stop listening. Not every video is wisdom. Not every post is prophecy. And not every truth deserves your energy. The spiritual path is not just about what you believe, it's about how you believe it. So ask yourself, does this teaching expand my love or inflate my fear? Does it invite connection or deepen division? Does it bring clarity or just chaos? Because in the end, your feed is a mirror. It reflects your mind, and only you decide what mind you want to build. If you're ready to shift your frequency from fear to freedom, don't just watch, activate, subscribe, tap the bell. Join the awakening that doesn't demand obedience, but encourages evolution. Symbols are the oldest technology. Before we had alphabets, we had signs. The spiral, the eye, the serpent, the lotus. Each one carried frequencies. Each one encoded stories older than language. In true spirituality, symbols are used as mirrors, portals to inner knowing. But in conspirituality, they are used as armor, as weapons, as codes that say, I know something you don't. Let's take the Eye of Horus, an ancient Egyptian symbol of wisdom and protection, now co-opted as proof of Illuminati control, or the chakra system, once a rich map of energy centers turned into a checklist for spiritual rank, or the pineal gland, which ancient cultures honored as a seat of vision, now reduced to conspiracy theories about fluoride and mind control. These symbols are not false, but their use has shifted. They no longer invite introspection. They enforce identity. I wear the ankh, therefore I'm awake. I use sacred geometry, so I'm in the know. But true mysticism doesn't need to advertise. It doesn't shout, it hums. And here's the deeper danger. Conspirituality doesn't just misuse symbols, it inverts them. The serpent, once a symbol of transformation, becomes a villain. The moon, once honored as divine feminine, becomes ritually dangerous. Even ancient gods are recast as part of an agenda. Everything sacred becomes suspicious. Everything mystical becomes manipulated. And in the chaos, real wisdom is lost. Language is next. Words like vibration, frequency, energy become vague slogans, stripped of context. Instead of exploring what these mean, conspiritual thinkers use them to silence. You're not vibing with this, you're low frequency. This doesn't resonate with you, you're not awake yet. Now disagreement equals sign spiritual failure. And that's the trap. The language of light becomes a tool of shadow. Instead of opening dialogue, it shuts it down. Instead of healing division, it deepens it. And the mythologies, they are just as distorted. Take Atlantis, a tale of an ancient civilization lost to ego and imbalance, now used as a fantasy of spiritual elitism, or the Indigo Children, once a poetic archetype of sensitive souls, now branded as a superior species. Instead of unity, we get hierarchy. Instead of transcendence, we get tribalism. And through it all, conspirituality continues to grow. Why? Because it feels good to feel chosen, to believe you see what others can't. But here's the truth. The real mystics whisper, if your awakening leads you to pride, it's not awakening, it's a mask. The deeper you go, the softer you become, more curious, more kind, more empty. Because true spiritual growth isn't about adding beliefs, it's about releasing illusions, even the beautiful ones, even the ones that resonate. Not all who wander are lost, but some are caught, entangled in a web of beliefs that once felt liberating and now feel heavy. So how do you know if you've strayed into conspirituality? How can you tell when your path of awakening has morphed into an echo chamber of fear? It begins with a feeling, tightness instead of flow, tension instead of trust, superiority instead of stillness. True spirituality feels like expansion, even when it's uncomfortable. False spirituality feels like inflation, loud, rigid, always certain. Here are signs that your path may have been hijacked. You feel anxious when exposed to other viewpoints. Your worldview depends on enemies and secret plots. You spend more time sharing warnings than practicing presence. You rely on symbols and jargon but can't explain their meaning. You feel a constant need to wake others up. And the biggest red flag, your heart is no longer the compass. It's your identity that drives your choices. But here's the grace. You can always realign. Because at the core of every spiritual teaching, real or distorted, is the same sacred thread. Return to the self, not the ego, not the brand, but the witness, the still, observing presence beneath the noise. To realign, start with silence. Get uncomfortable with not knowing. Ask, where am I reacting from, love or fear? Reclaim humility. Let go of needing to be right. And most importantly, reconnect with your body. The body never lies. It trembles at manipulation. It tightens at untruth. It expands in resonance. Breathe into that wisdom. Second, choose discernment over drama. It's okay to ask for sources. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to change your mind. Because spiritual maturity is not measured by how much you believe. It's measured by how much you can let go. And third, find your practice. Not the one with the trendiest language or most viral videos. The one that humbles you, opens you, brings you into the now. That might be meditation, or service, or deep listening, or walking in silence through the trees. Whatever reconnects you to what's real, that's your compass. Because the path forward is not paved with revelations, it's paved with integrity. The deeper question is no longer, what do I know? But who am I when all beliefs are silent? That is the edge. That is the real initiation. True spirituality doesn't grow in isolation. It thrives in connection. Not the shallow bond of shared hashtags, but the deep resonance of souls walking a similar path, without needing to agree on every step. And that's what conspirituality threatens most: community. Because in a world gripped by fear, trust becomes a casualty. Everyone becomes suspect. Every disagreement becomes betrayal. Every difference becomes division. But what if we could build something different, something ancient yet new? A space where being awake didn't mean being at war. Where you could say, I don't know, and be met with a nod, not a correction. Where your mystical experiences were honored, but never used as a weapon. This is the path forward. Communities of integrity, not built on status, followers, or secret knowledge, but on compassion, humility, and a shared willingness to grow. Imagine a circle where diversity of thought is sacred, where science and spirit dance together, not fight, where your truth is welcomed but not worshipped. This doesn't mean anything goes. It means everything is questioned with love. It means grounded practices, open dialogue, a culture of curiosity over certainty, and above all, accountability. Because the shadow doesn't disappear just because you speak in sacred language. If anything, it hides better. So communities must have mirrors, ways to reflect, recalibrate, and reroute in shared values. Not control, not censorship, but conscious calibration. This requires a return to eldership, not gurus, not influencers, but wise, quiet, grounded guides who hold space without agenda. We've lost that. In a world of micro-celebrities and viral revelations, we've mistaken charisma for clarity. It's time to remember, the real ones don't want to lead. They want to listen. They ask questions instead of offering dogma. They point inward instead of demanding attention. In 2025 and beyond, our evolution won't come from louder beliefs. It will come from deeper bonds. And to build those, we need to stop trying to be right and start trying to be real. Ask yourself, when I speak, is it from love or defense? When I post, is it to connect or control? When I teach, is it to serve or to shine? Because in sacred community, everyone becomes a mirror. And the greatest gift you can offer, your honesty, your humility, your presence. There is a moment on every true spiritual path when the noise fades, the teachings blur, the symbols dissolve, even the questions fall away, and what remains is stillness. No more need to be right, no more need to wake others up, no more craving to decode every headline as a cosmic test, just breath, just being. Because in the end, awakening isn't an idea you argue for, it's a presence you embody, and the deeper you go, the more you realize truth does not scream. It waits for you to get tired of performing, tired of chasing shadows in the name of light, tired of replacing one illusion with another. Then in the quiet, it speaks, not in visions, not in symbols, but in the simple hum of aliveness within you. So if you found yourself tangled in the web of conspirituality, know this: you're not broken, you're human, you wanted more, You felt more. You knew there had to be something deeper, and there is. But it was never hidden. It was just quieter than the rest. Now is your time to come back, to let go, to deconstruct the constructs, because spirituality isn't found in the feed. It's found in how you love, how you listen, how you show up when no one is watching. The question is no longer, what's the truth? It's, are you brave enough to live without needing one? To let mystery remain sacred? To let others walk their path without forcing yours? To be light without casting shadow? Now we ask you, have you ever questioned if your awakening is still yours, or if it was scripted for you? Drop your thoughts below. Let's begin again, not with answers, but with honest wonder. And if this stirred your spirit, if it cracked something open, there's more. Explore the other transmissions on this channel, because sometimes the most spiritual act is to unlearn and simply deeply